Isang mapayapang hapon Pilipinas. Ito pa rin ang inyong balerina ng bayan, si Lisa Macuja, na bumabati sa lahat ng nakikinig sa DZRH at sa lahat ng nanonood ng RH-TV, lalong-lalo na sa ating mga kasamahang alagad ng sining at kultura sa buong bansa. Dahil mahilig akong magbasa, laging espesyal para sa akin ang makipagpanayam sa isang alagad ng literatura. Bukod sa masarap silang kausap, para ka na ding may backstage pass sa proseso ng kanilang pagsusulat, saan sila kumukuha ng inspirasyon, ano ang mga writing habits nila, ano ang mga standards nila para sa kanilang mga sarili, at kung paano nila nalalaman kung ang kanilang obra ay pasado, hindi lamang sa panlasa ng mga kritiko, kundi pati na rin sa mga readers nila. Sa hapong ito, aalamin natin ang pananaw ng isang premyadong makata at kritiko na itinuturing na isa sa pinakamahusay sa ating henerasyon, si Dr. Gemino Abad.
Isinilang sa Cebu noong 5 ng Pebrero 1939, si Gemino Abad ay isang tanyag at premyadong makata at literary critic. Nagtapos siya ng Bachelor of Arts in English mula sa Universidad ng Pilipinas noong 1964 at ng PhD in English Literature mula sa University of Chicago noong 1970. Nagsilbi siya sa Universidad ng Pilipinas sa iba't ibang posisyon bilang University Secretary, Secretary of the Board of Regents, Vice President for Academic Affairs at Director ng UP Institute of Creative Writing, at nagturo din siya ng English, Comparative Literature and Creative Writing sa UP Diliman sa loob ng maraming taon. Si Dr. Abad ay co-founder ng Philippine Literary Arts Council na siyang naglalathala ng Karakoa, isang poetry journal sa wikang Ingles. Bilang makata at kritiko, kabilang sa kanyang mga akda ang Fugitive Emphasis, In Another Light, A Formal Approach to Lyric Poetry, The Space Between, Poems and Parables, Index to Filipino Poetry in English, 1905-1950, at State of Play. Nakumpleto na rin niya ang anthology ng kanyang mga short stories in English mula 1956 hanggang 2008 na kinabibilangan ng mga aklat na Upon My Own Ground, Underground Spirit at Horde of Thunder. Naging patnugot din siya ng mga landmark anthologies of Filipino poetry in English na tulad ng Man of Earth, A Native Clearing, at A Habit of Shores, Filipino Poetry and Verse from English 60s to the 90s. Ibinigay sa kanya ng UP ang ranggong University Professor, ang pinakamataas na academic rank at ibinibigay ng universidad sa isang bukod-tanging faculty member. Sa kasalukuyan, kabilang si Dr. Abad sa Board of Advisor ng UP Institute of Creative Writing at patuloy na nagtuturo ng creative writing bilang Emeritus University Professor sa College of Arts and Letters ng UP Diliman. Kabilang sa napakaraming gantimpalang natanggap na niya ang UP Outstanding Faculty Award, UP Distinguished Alumnus in Literature, UP Gawad Chancellor, Best Literary Work, Palangka Awards for Poetry, Philippine Free Press Awards for Literature, Gawad CCP Award for Poetry, National Book Awards mula sa Manila Critics Circle, Asian Catholic Publishers Catholic Authors Award, Gawad Pambansang Alagad ni Balagtas mula sa Unyon ng mga Manunulat ng Pilipinas, at patnubay ng sining at kalinangan para sa panitikan mula sa lungsod ng Maynila noong 2009. Siya ang naging unang Pilipinong nagkamit ng tinitingalang Premio Feronia sa Rome, Italy sa ilalim ng Foreign Author category. Ipinagmamalaki ng Art2art ang makasama ang isa sa mga pangunahing makata at literary critics ng ating panahon, si Dr. Gemino Abad.
Magandang hapon po, Dr. Abad, and welcome po to Art2art. Nakipagpanayam po tayo sa inyong anak last month po.
Yes, yes, and she was overjoyed by it.
Sa amin pong Mother's Day special yon. Of course,
yeah.
Sinabi po niya doon na talagang kayo po yung nagturo sa kanya, lalo na yung disiplina ng pagsusulat. Okay. Una po sa lahat, magbalik tanaw po muna tayo sa ugat ng inyong pagiging alagad ng panitikan. Ano po sa palagay ninyo ang pinakamalaking impluwensya sa pagpasok ninyo sa literatura?
Sa high school, doon sa Christmas exchange gift, nabigyan ako ng collected poems of Robert Frost.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And I guess that might have encouraged me to try poetry. Yeah. And in fact, when I learned that Frost was a farmer, after graduation, I went to Los Baños to be a farmer, thinking thinking that there was a connection between farming and poetry.
And poetry. Okay.
Yeah, that didn't work out. I lasted only 2 years in Los Baños.
It was still 2 years, though.
Yes.
Pero so poetry po kaagad yung talagang calling ninyo?
In high school, I was writing short stories also and poetry, but especially poetry.
So masasabi po ba natin na si Robert Frost ang talagang naging inspirasyon ninyo?
Yes, up to the present time.
Up to present time. Sino-sino po pa sa mga iba pong alagad ng panitikan ang nagbibigay inspirasyon sa inyo?
Later on, well, even during high school, we stayed on campus because my father was head of the Department of Spanish there. So our neighbor was Envian Gonzalez. Yes.
Okay.
And from time to time, I would show him my short stories. And I had a teacher also, Franz Arceliana. He stayed in another area, Area 17. I would walk that whole distance to show him some of my poems. Yes. For me, it was enough that they accepted to read what I gave them, although they didn't have to comment. But sometimes they did. Yeah, they were very encouraging.
Okay. So, would you say na si NVM Gonzalez po ang naging parang mentor ninyo?
Yes, and also Franz Arceliana.
And Franz Arceliana.
The two of them. Yeah.
Okay. Kasi nasabi po nung anak po ninyo na kayo po ang naging mentor niya. So,
well, later on, I got involved in the a writers group. No, this was Alfred Yuson, Cirilo Bautista, and so we formed the Philippine Literary Arts Council.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and we would. The CCP was very supportive of us. We could go to various places, including Dumaguete, Cebu, and so forth. It was a poetry reading circuit. Now, we would read our poems there, and the poets residing there in Dumaguete or Cebu, they also would recite with us. So, activities like that are important for writers, so they get spurred in their writing career.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And get inspired, of course.
Yes.
So, bilang isang guro at alagad ng sining, paano nyo sasagutin ang tanong ng ilang mga magulang na ano ang silbi ng pagkuha ng kurso sa literatura sa isang bansang maraming naghihirap at maraming hindi nakakapag-aral?
Well, after graduation from high school, I don't know if it is still true at this time, but we graduate from high school very young, 16 years old,
Yes.
17 years old, and
Dahil wala po tayong grade 7.
yes, and like in my case, I didn't quite know really what to take. Yeah, that's why I thought I'll go Los Baños. No, my father was he wanted. I mean, there was a time that he liked poultry, so I was going to major in poultry. No, in Los Baños. Yeah, but being young. You did not really think about your country and how people are poor and things like that. Yeah, it's very much later. Yeah, perhaps in college that you begin to have some kind of social consciousness. Yeah, especially in UP.
Yes, especially
It's a very activist institution. Yeah.
But in your own opinion po ba, napapag-aralan po ba ang pagsusulat?
Well, I think there has got to be some, you might say, an inborn talent or maybe temperament, maybe just temperament. No? Because unless you have that to begin with, a certain love for words, yeah, you would
Love for words and love for reading.
yeah,
no?
love for language.
Love for language.
Yeah, you would it would be uphill. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as a poet naman po, do you feel na ang poetry po ba ng Pilipinas ay marami pong nagbabasa ng poetry? Is it a very developed art and patronized art in our country?
That's I've always wondered about that. Yes, books of poetry don't sell in our country. Poetry for most people, I think, would be like a puzzle to them. No? It would be like myself. I was intimidated by math, mathematics. So I think quite a number too are puzzled by why don't you just say it plain and simple, so I can understand immediately what you are saying. No? So I think there are very few readers of poetry in our country, and yet I'm very surprised in my research. We have quite a number of very good poets writing in English, and I think also, although I don't have the expertise, writing also in our Philippine languages like Tagalog and Cebuano, yeah, and Ilocano, yeah. So, but the readership of poetry is much less than the readership of fiction.
Yes, that's true.
Like
that's
short
true.
stories and novels.
I mean, I speak as a student myself. I would be afraid to read poetry, but yun nga, basta paragraph form, I can relate more to that.
Yeah.
I mean, going into poetry, hindi po ba kayo natakot na walang market po sa mga obra ninyo?
Actually, it never occurred to me that I would be hard up in life if I continue with poetry. Besides, you don't get your income from poetry. You have to do something else, like teach. You have to have some other. You have to have a means of livelihood.
Yeah.
Not poetry.
Not poetry.
Yeah.
Okay. Not writing.
Well, even writing itself would be a difficult profession if you are talking about income. I have some friends who are freelance writers, and they're doing well.
And they survive.
Yes, but they have to work very hard.
And they can support their families
Yes.
with writing.
Yes, but it is exceptional in our country for people like that. Yeah.
Okay, so in your opinion, how can Philippine literature step out of its minority status?
I think that has to do with our school system. No? It starts there. It starts with kindergarten, the love of reading. Yeah. I usually joke with my friends, if I were Secretary of Education, which I am not, and will never
But
be.
listen, but he might be listening to us right now.
It would be priority for me to have beautiful books, no, for children. No, I would encourage children's literature, no, by Filipinos, no, by Filipino authors. Yeah. See, that's their first encounter with literature, so it has to be really attractive, no, not mimeograph or yeah,
Xerox
or
copies.
Xerox copy. No, make the book lovely. Yeah, and you start there.
Yes, it
Yeah,
starts young.
The love of reading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where it starts. Yeah.
Marami pa po tayong pag-uusapan kasama ang multi-awarded poet and literary critic na si Professor Gemino Abad dito pa rin sa Art2art. Magbabalik po kami pagkatapos ng ilang paalala.
Programang hatid ay sining at kulturang para sa lahat. Magbabalik ang Art2art. Schedule ng mga inaabangang konsyerto. Update sa mga magagandang panoorin sa mga tanghalan at teatro. Narito na ang Art2art Calendar.
Narito ang ating Arts Calendar. Sa teatro, inihahandog ng Cultural Center of the Philippines sa pakikipagtulungan ng Philippine Board on Books for Young People ang musical theater version ng aklat na Sandosenang Sapatos bilang pagdiriwang ng 28th National Children's Book Day dito sa Pilipinas ngayong Hulyo. Isa sa buhay ng tanghalang Pilipino ang naturang aklat na sinulat ni Luis Gatmaytan tungkol sa isang sapaterong nagnanais na maging ballet dancer ang kanyang anak kahit ito'y may kapansanan. Mapapanood sa CCP ang Sandosenang Sapatos simula July 13, alas 10 ng umaga at alas 3 ng hapon. Para sa kompletong schedule ng palabas at sa ticket, tumawag sa CCP at 832-1125 o kaya sa Ticket World at 891-9999. Sa sining biswal, kasalukuyang itinatanghal ang exhibit na pinamagatang Color My World ni Phyllis Zaballero, kung saan makikita ang kanyang mga panibagong obra. Ito'y ginaganap sa Altromondo Gallery sa Greenbelt 5, Ayala Center, Makati City. Sinabay sa pagbukas ng exhibit noong July 3 ang paglunsad ng isang aklat tungkol sa buhay at propesyon ni Zaballero sa panulat ni Alfredo Roses. Makikita ang Color My World hanggang August 2. Para sa karagdagang detalye, tumawag sa 501-3270 o mag-email sa altromondo.info@yahoo.com. Sa musika, patuloy ang pagpapalabas ng Metropolitan Opera Series in High Definition ngayong July 9. Tampok ang Maria Stuarda ni Gaetano Donizetti sa tanghalang Aurelio Tolentino ng Cultural Center of the Philippines alas 2 ng hapon at alas 7 ng gabi. Ang Maria Stuarda ay tungkol sa pagtutunggali ni Queen Elizabeth at ni Mary, Queen of Scots. Gumaganap bilang Mary si American mezzo-soprano Joyce Di Donato. Samantala, tampok ang mga obra ng apat na sikat na 19th century composers na sina Rossini, Verdi, Donizetti at Puccini sa Four Hands at the Opera na ipapalabas sa July 13 alas 7:30 ng gabi sa tanghalang Aurelio Tolentino ng Cultural Center of the Philippines, July 13, 7:30 p.m. Magtatanghal ang conductor, pianist at composer na si Luciano Bellini kasama ang concert pianist at recording artist na si Antonella Vitelli. Para sa karagdagang detalye sa mga naturang palabas, tumawag sa CCP Box Office at 832-3704 o bumisita sa website na culturalcenter.gov.ph.
Usapang sining at kultura para sa lahat. Kasama ang balerina ng bayan, si Lisa Macuja. Art2art.
Kasama pa rin po natin ang premyadong guro, makata at kritiko na si Dr. Gemino Abad. Dr. Abad, it has been said that your poetry is, in quotation marks, among the most exquisite ever produced by a Filipino poet. Can you share with us what inspires you?
I think you begin with a sense for language. Yeah, you have to love you have to love your medium. Yeah, and your medium is language. Not, yeah. And my sense is, without language, you'd hardly have a grasp of any kind of reality. No? It's with language that you have a handle to deal with any reality. No? So when you have that sense for language, no, almost anything in your life no, can give rise to certain perceptions, no? Certain perceptions for which you have the language to express that perception. Yeah. So anything can give rise to a poem or a short story. Yeah. But the bottom line is the sense for language.
Yes.
That is your most intimate sense of reality. Yeah, the language.
Oh, and speaking of language and poetry, you claimed that you can recite your poems from memory.
Yes.
So, may we have a sample of some of these
Yes.
poems?
Yes. It's a favorite poem. It's an imaginary letter to my twin sons. Dear David, dear Jago, I am on an island called Oahu. Here there are many white people. They are called Howlers. There are also Japanese, Chinese, Filipinos. I have seen the fields of sugar cane where the Ilocanos worked when they first came over. How poor they must have been and lonely. No one could follow their speech to their island home. There are few native Hawaiians. Their words, which are the names of streets and buildings, outnumber them. How could happen this be? A time ago, they had a queen, but soldiers came from America. They took away her throne, and then all the land. Those who fought were killed, and then many more died because they did not know the diseases that the soldiers brought. They were never so sick before on their island. But it is a beautiful island, perhaps because nature's story is different from ours. Trees and mountains and beaches and falls are her speech. And perhaps because our own story is dark, we see only half her beauty and only dream of peace and goodwill. I cannot fathom the human sadness that infects our sense for beauty. Let me just tell you now about the Chinese banyan tree by my window. Tonight it is my father, because his love was like a great tree, but without speech. Every morning on that banyan tree, many species of birds are in full throat, so that now I wonder, would my sons, years from now, gather from a tree's silence my own heart's affection? And in that moment know that once, while I made their world, I had deeply wished, when they shall have left that world behind, I would be the tree to their morning.
Wow. Wait, did you just make that up? or did you really write that 2 weeks ago on Father's Day?
No, I wrote that a long time ago.
A long time ago, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay po, can I have one more?
Oh, sure.
Can we ask for one more?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
This one is about writing. Yeah, this one about writing. That space of writing. And when I write, I want the largest space of such breadth, of such length, as this world never had, of forest nor virgin paper, where the words never were, their script a curse, but only now descending to cry freedom. Then my hand should never feel there were walls that grow their ominous lichen between my fingers, nor my elbows graze the wild beards of rocks that cathedral my tribe wailing for their God, but only now descending without speech. The words that never were create anew my race. Their mornings stand clear, where ancient skies cascade down the singing gorges of the wind. My hands draw again the map that alien voyages had wrecked, oh, long ago, descending with cross and crag. My elbows swing where rooms void their space, and I laugh to see the weird syllables of speech open their abyss and stride across the heartland of my people's silences, where their eyes pour like sunlight, descending to claim the earth. Oh, when I write again, the words of any tongue shall find no tillage in our blood, nor my hands scruple to choke their weed, for first must they bleed their scripture and yield to our sight's will, descending to carve our heart.
Wow, bravo. Umiiyak na ata yung writer namin dito. Dr. Abad, you wear po several hats. Poet, editor, short story writer, educator, critic. Which do you consider your priority?
I'm afraid it's poetry.
It's poetry. Of course.
Yes, poetry.
And how do you feel po about about Filipino criticism, about the critics?
Yes, I think there is so much more need for critics. Yeah. Actually, not only in literature, but especially in literature, I think, but also in the other arts. Yeah, because that will make the writer, it will make the writer think more seriously about his craft. Yeah, especially when the criticism is not so favorable.
It's constructive.
No? But yes, what we need is constructive criticism, nothing personal.
Okay.
Nothing personal. Actually, it's a difficult discipline, criticism, because especially in our culture,
nagiging personal po lahat.
Oo,
Opo.
nagiging personal. Hindi naman. I'm not criticizing you as a person, as a human being. I'm just focused on some aspect in your story or your point. But there are many ways of saying it, without being offensive. And I would always soften it. No, be gentle, be more generous. Because we need them. We need the writers. We need the artists.
What do you say po to your students in class?
Well, I always tell them, well, I picked this up from Franz Arceliana. No? You know, during writers' workshops, Arceliana would always tell the writer, I have read your short story, or I have read your poem, and then he would look the writer in the eye and he says, get real. That's what he would say. Get
real. Okay.
Yeah, get real. I always remember that. Yeah. And then there's also another influence in my writing career is Edith Tiempo. No, and she would also say she has a favorite anecdote. No, with Robert Frost. No, she asked Robert Frost, "What did you want to say in your poem?" Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. You know? What did you want to say, Mr. Frost? And Robert Frost told her, this is all that I wanted to say. Easy does it. Easy does it. Yeah. So that too, get real.
And easy does it.
Easy does it. Then you persevere that way. Yeah.
5 recommended books po.
Well, if you're interested in poetry, then I would go. Yeah, I would go for Robert Frost. I would go for Wallace Stevens. I'd go for Rainer Maria Rilke. Yeah, and I will go. Let's see now. Well, it's not poetry anymore, but I go Dostoevsky.
Oh, Dostoevsky.
Yeah, I go Dostoevsky. No? Yeah.
He's a bit wordy.
Yeah. For me, like I picked this up from Nick Joaquin because I agree with him. No? Yeah, he's another great writer, Nick Joaquin. And the greatest novel in world literature, as far as Nick Joaquin is concerned, and I agree with him, is The Brothers Karamazov.
The Brothers Karamazov.
Yeah, that
by
one.
Dostoevsky. Okay, it's a very thick book.
Yeah, The Brothers Karamazov. Yeah. And one little book, it's beautiful, no? The Little Prince.
The Little Prince.
That one. That one. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Abad, for being our guest here in Art2art.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you for sharing your works with us, and thank you for being so eloquent.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoyed it. I
Thank you.
enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Mabilis po na naman nagdaan ng kalahating oras. And of course, sana po mas dumami pa ang mga nagbabasa
Oo.
at
Yes.
nagbabasa at nag-a-appreciate po ng poetry.
Yes.
Mga kaibigan, samahan niyo po kami ulit sa susunod na linggo, 3:30 ng hapon, dito lamang sa Art2art. Ito po si Lisa Macuja, nagpupugay sa artistang Pilipino at sa lahat ng Pilipinong nagmamahal sa bayan.